you doing? Today's video is going to be covering kind of the prep or how to prep a sandbox. Now, when I say how to prep a sandbox, I've ran a bunch of sandbox campaigns, one-on-one time campaigns, and an open table sandbox, which was probably the trickiest. And this is kind of what I put together over a period of time to make it much, much easier to run a sandbox. And not just easier than you think, but for me, so much easier than running a linear, large moduled campaign. There's actually, for me, a lot more work. This has an initial amount of work, but in the actual week-to-week running of a linear campaign, it takes so much more work, in my opinion, or at least for me. So this is going to be sharing all the bits or the simple framework that I use. And as with everything, like, none of us really know what we're doing. We just share what we can. So take what you like and leave the rest. Right. This is going to be a little bit of a different format today. Look, all flashy and nice. Okay, so this is titled "A Sandbox Ain't Scary," and it needn't be. So the kind of like 4 pillars that I use for a sandbox is location, situation, motivation, and observation. Now, I'll break them down both individually and kind of how I've used them, and hopefully this will help kind of put stuff together. So location and situation, these are both things that interact directly with the players. These are things that can be that are in the players or the PC's views. The motivations and observations, these are your secret tools that make running the game so much easier, and I mean so much easier. So let's start at the top with locations. If we zoom in here, oh, that was wrong. There we go. So locations are the wheres. In fact, if I zoom out and go over this briefly, locations are the wheres, situations are the whats, motivations are the whys. So if we jump back in here, so when I say the wheres, these are the senses. These are generally inanimate, but you can see them. So you can see them, you can touch them, you can smell them. They don't necessarily happen to you, although a smell kind of does, but you get what I mean. So when we're looking at a setting, you've got geography, you've got the regions, you've got the locales. I have literally just got Rob Conley's Kickstarter PDF. It's amazing. I can't advise it enough. So I'll put another link down below. Sign up for that. But that helps kind of like flesh out so much of this stuff. So if we move across here, so what we're going to do is we're going to break down kind of like big and then zoom into the different areas and then give examples. So with the town, that would be the actual shops, the types of shops that are there, the taverns, the names of the taverns, the looks of the taverns, the walls of the town. You know, does it have walls? Does it not have walls? Are the guards? That kind of thing. It's the actual location there. With a dungeon, it's the entrance. It's the look of the dungeon. It might be the theme of the dungeon if the theme is something that kind of like is permeates the dungeon. So if there are certain smells, if you walk from a certain area and there's always a breeze wafting from the east with a smell of decay, or it's the dripping in the dungeon, or maybe it's a dungeon that's so dry that you have to keep on drinking water. Actually, I've never done that, but that'd be kind of cool. Right, sorry, tea. So if we then kind of go back out to situations. So with situations, this is the experience. This is something that happens to the PCs. And again, this might sound like a lot at the start, but realistically, when we break it down later, you're going to find out it's a line on each. So this is would be factions. This would be a living history if that's if there's a certain march that's happening, or if there's certain festivals. So that's when you're looking at it kind of like at an overall faction level. It could be kingdoms and how they interact with each other. When we bring it into the town, what we have, that would be the actual town's factions. So this would be, you might see that there's a fight between the smuggling faction and the thieves guild. They're clashing in a fight at the docks. That's a situation that the players can see with, can interact with, and it gives them some information. This could be the troubles that are happening to the town. So again, sheep are going missing. That's a situation that's happening to the town. Or it could be the NPC. So I'm gonna break down an NPC here to give you an example. So imagine there's an NPC in the town called she's an old nonna, and she runs the local tavern. She's really kindly. She's always got an apron on. She's got glasses, and she keeps taking them off to see you, kind of wondering why the hell she actually has glasses on. There's this mannerism that she always does, or she always pushes them down to the bottom of her nose. As soon as you go through here, she feeds everyone in. That's her way. She always tries to stick food. If you've been in one of my games beforehand, you might recognize this girl. And she calls everybody my duck, right? Hello, my duck. She's absolutely appears lovely. That is a situation. The reason it's a situation is as soon as you go into the tavern, this thing happens to you. This NPC happens to you. If we go back up again and we go to dungeons. So dungeons, this would be the factions in the dungeons. If you see two factions, two groups are fighting each other, or maybe getting on, or it could be the certain types of traps that are there, or there is certain food being left in a certain area that's been left there by somebody. It's a situation. So if we give an example, again, outside world, the sheep are going missing in the town. This is the situation that the dungeon is happening. There's kobolds in there that are stealing the sheep for some reason, or something stealing the sheep. So if we go for a monster, for an example here, imagine this monster. It's like a small little kobold. It's got really vicious looking, just kind of like chiseled teeth. Really, really fast. Always wearing a hat, almost like a big straw hat. You always see them wearing that, and they carry this vicious looking stick with a hook on it, and if you get too close they spit venom at you and it can paralyze you temporarily. A hideous little monster. I've never actually had these, but I'm probably going to have to make them at some point now. But yeah, so that is a situation in the sense of that's the monster, and it could happen to the people, and that's what they're going to see. So if we zoom out now and we look at the bottom part, we've got motivation and observation. These are the bits that players don't know, okay? But these are the secret tools of the GM. So again, if we, what did I do? Yeah, if we go into here, the why. So motivation is the why. It's kind of like the undiscovered backstory of what's going on. It's what you know, but what the players don't know. So within a setting, it could be the why the factions exist, the why they don't like each other. It could be the history, if that is a living history that is still interacting with things. But if we give kind of like a zoom into the town and we make it a little bit easier. So if we go to, it could be again, we spoke about the why the factions work on a setting level, but also within a town. So if we go back to that Nonna. So that Nonna is genuinely good. She's a lovely person, but her son's been kidnapped by the Thieves Guild. And her grandson has been kidnapped by the Thieves Guild. And the reason it's been done is because they want her to spy on you to try and get you to do something nefarious. All of a sudden, within a few lines, you've got a line for the Nonna's description, you've got a line for her mannerisms, and you've got a line for her motivation. It doesn't matter what situation happens now. You know exactly who she is and how she's going to behave. You don't have to do any more prep. You don't have to think about how she's going to interact with the PC. You don't have to. You also know now how the Thieves Guild are going to be getting information from the players, because the players will naturally start speaking to her generally. But you now know how the world works. You don't have to make the decisions on it. You don't have to have any hard work in and around it. As soon as the players come in and interact with her at any point in the future, you know immediately how she's going to react. And it's 3 lines, and you've got a living, breathing character that then generates plot lines. So again, if we kind of like come back over here, so again with the dungeons, you've got the whys of the factions, why they don't like each other. You've got the NPCs that the people might meet in the dungeons, why they're there, what is their backstory, what is their motivation, what are they looking for. So if we go back to those monsters that we spoke about earlier on, they live off poisonous slugs. So imagine that there is poisonous slugs in this dungeon. And these poisonous slugs are paralytics, and they eat you once they paralyze you. They tend to drop from the ceiling on you, which is why these things wear these hats. So nobody understands, it seems really off, but they wear these hats because if they get bitten on the head, it's over. But the only way to kind of survive the poison is to get the antivenom, and the antivenom is in these slugs' optical tentacles. Now I actually had to, I'm over here, I had to look that up because optical tentacles is an actual thing. So so these little optical tentacles, if they eat them immediately, that counteracts the poison, which is why they have these vicious looking hooks because if something bites them, they need to get their hands on it within 5 seconds or within a D6 seconds, which is one of the reasons why they're so fast. They're not vicious. They're not necessarily bad. They just live in this dungeon. But they're really intelligent, and they tend to sow fear among everything. So most things are frightened of these really fast, poison-spitting creatures. But like the only thing they're going to eat is these slugs. So you now have a unique monster, but you know their why. So if you roll a reaction, the reaction's good. You don't have to think about how they're going to interact with the players. You immediately know. And this is so much more fun when you're at the table, when you're running, because it feels like you're playing. It feels like you are in the game as a player, and that's the bits that I love, which is kind of cool. And now, give me one moment, more tea. Okay, so observations. These are, no, 4 shouldn't be there. These are the thing that took me the longest to adopt. Sometimes as a GM, what we do is we get over-attached, or a referee, we get over-attached to our prep. We get over-attached to our story. When you're prepping like this, you don't actually prep huge amounts. And if you can go at it with a frame of mind that nothing is real, nothing has actually happened until the players interact, until they make contact with them, it gives you a level of flexibility that you can adapt this campaign as the players go. So if you imagine you've got 4 players at your table, you have 20 good ideas. Well, then 4 players have 20 good ideas each. That's 80 good ideas versus your 20. The chances that one of those are going to be better than yours is pretty damn high. And it will happen probably at least once a session. So if you're listening, you can then make that thing become real. Or you're also able to see kind of what they want to interact with, which is hugely important. So the players are going to be telling you what they like, or showing you what they like through their play, or through their reactions to stuff. Make notes, okay? Make notes, and if they don't do that, ask them what they're thinking. If you can foster a relationship with your players that is not you versus them, and they know that you're like, when I'm running games, I'm always backing my players. I'm hoping that they win. My job is to have the world behave as accurately as possible, and this allows you to do it without being mean. But ask them what they're thinking. What you're going to find out is, I did that wrong. They're going to come up with situations, and if they are cool, make them true. Even if it's against what you thought was going to happen, make them true. What you're going to find is the players are then even more invested in the setting. If they've come up with a cool idea and you haven't put this thing into play yet, let that become the truth, because the history isn't real until they've touched it. And the players will not only feel great because they've figured something out, but your game will then start to interact organically or grow organically. And more importantly, it's more fun. Like more fun for you to be like as a player, in my opinion. And again, all of this is just my opinion. So, there's one that's not here. Let me stick one in here. Control C, Control V. Let's make you nice and neat. There we go. Okay. Let them create. Let your players build part of your setting. Building a sandbox is big. You will find there's players at your table that are more than happy if you're willing to delegate or diminish or let go of a little bit of control to create really cool things. Give them a framework in which to work with. But if players create stuff, their engagement in the game is so much more. And again, some players have got no interest in it whatsoever. Other players love it. In fact, let me give you an example. Okay, I ran this campaign. This was the open table campaign, and I actually ran this at one stage, both online with a group of people throughout Europe and in a local cafe at the same time. We were doing one-on-one time, and it was really cool. So if I think next, let me go here. Heckled and Holt. One of the players came from a town. I just had a line on it. It was Kalen. Kalen is an amazing player, and he wrote the history of the town. Heckled and Holt. I asked him. He said I came from there. what's going on, and goes, I don't have much, you write it for me. He wrote me a few paragraphs on it that were cooler than anything I would have wrote. They were more detailed. They gave me stuff to work with, and also he now had a part of the setting that was his. That was part of his backstory that could then come into play. You have players that are willing to do that, and if they do, happy days. It's amazing. So what I think my next video is going to be, because I don't want this to be too long, is examples of how this has been put into play. So I might actually, now that I'm on this site, I might actually go through the Kobold's Escape. That's a tavern in this pub, and I'll go through the story of that. Yeah, if I go through the story of that, that literally is a case of location, situation, motivation, and observation, and it became a centerpiece of the campaign. I had no plans on it being, but the players effectively made it so and created characters themselves through the rolling of dice in the game. So I'm going to break this down maybe in our next video, where I kind of like show that Sandbox ain't scary. So I hope you enjoyed this. The format's a little bit different, and yeah. So and let me know your thoughts below. There's probably going to be videos here, a video here, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.